As a doctor who owns a business, you are more than only a clinician. You're also a CEO. And the attributes of a CEO are not all the same as those of a clinician. My guest today helps her doctor clients develop the essential attributes of a CEO, and she's going to lay some of them out for us. I'm Carl White, principal at Mark Advisory Group, which is a healthcare marketing agency, and I'm also the host of Practice Care. The mission for both is the same, and that's to help private practice owners stay private. It's usually what they want, but care is better when it's the providers of care who also own the practice, because then we know that every decision that's got to get made, clinical, business, whatever it may be, is made by those who also have to care for patients. So we can feel pretty good that the needs of the patients, the welfare of patients is always going to be top of mind. My guest today, my returning guest today, is Michelle O'Connor. Michelle is a believer in following one's dreams, and she has risen from an inner city community to a life of abundance. With corporate expertise in strategic planning and execution, she helps entrepreneurs achieve their goals. Michelle supports organizations through strategic processes, coaching entrepreneurs to develop action plans for success. She's facilitated strategic planning retreats in Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and the Dominican Republic, and reached hundreds through her purpose-driven conference. Her current mission is to help medical private practice owners create sustainable practices. As a wife and mom, she strives for a brighter future, motivated by the philosophy at Astra Per Aspera. Welcome back.
Thank you, Carl. It's always good to be here.
Yes, we are observing the snow, both of us in the
Right?
northern
Yes,
part
we
of this hemisphere. For me, it's going to melt in the next couple of days. I think maybe for you, you were saying maybe not so much.
Maybe a few more days, but then we
Maybe a
get
few
a
more
break probably
days.
until late December or so.
Yeah, we were saying this is like the wake up snow where the
Yeah,
weather
go
tells
change your
us,
tires. Pull
yeah,
out, dust off your boots.
this is the freebie. Go get your snowblower in order, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll let this one melt, but the next time we show up,
Yeah,
it's going to be
we'll be
ugly.
here for a while.
Yeah, exactly. You've been warned. All right, so we're talking about CEO attributes every practice owner needs, which is I don't know what took us so long to get to this topic. You've been on a few times now, but anyway, here we are. But before we get there, for those who haven't heard another episode with you or don't know you, just fill in a bit about, a bit more about you and what you're doing.
So a little about me. I'm a strategic planner. That is my zone of genius, as they call it. And I think that all started from just having a passion for helping persons achieving their goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized the same process we take to go after our personal goals, if we utilize those in a structured way for businesses and or our private practices, it will go a far way.
Mm-hmm.
And I also realized along my journey that many private practice owners are not business owners. And the minute you own a practice, you now become a CEO, and that takes a different acumen of business skills. And my purpose is to help founders and CEOs know to create that structure in their business so they can grow in a more structured and seamless way and reduce the burnout. As a CEO, it doesn't go away, but if we can reduce it and manage it a bit, we do that through planning. And that is the mission I'm on now.
Yeah, you and me both. Us
Yes.
corporate refugees who love planning things. Because once it's planned, and then the easy part is getting it all done. It sounds like it's the opposite, but yeah, the tolerance for, the planning part. The best part of a plan is it's all figured out. The worst part of a plan is nothing quite got done yet.
Yeah.
And you have to have some patience for that. But
and then I know from corporate is what I know from corporates. Even in corporate, it was so hard to get executives to come to retreats.
You're making this too hard. I don't think so. I really, yeah.
So I say to myself, if the executives were so turned off by it, even though they know they need it, I can just imagine a CEO who is in their business on a day-to-day basis. I'm not accountable to anyone. I'm not, this is just going to have to figure itself out. So
yeah. The mission of Practice Care to help private practice owners stay private. This topic, maybe if this isn't at sort of ground zero of that concept, it's got to be really close. So CEO attributes, let's just jump into the belly of the beast. In your experience, in your opinion, what is the most important CEO attribute?
We kind of started brushing on it, and we both agree that it should be leadership. I think when you are at the front of the line, you direct traffic. It's almost like you are the one, you're setting the tone for everything in your practice. And when you have that leadership attribute where persons look to you for guidance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have those leaders where they enter a room and you just feel that whatever they do, I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is leadership and you are guiding people, you want to ensure that you've upleveled your leadership to that stage where persons immediately follow you, even when you don't have time to speak.
Yeah. And good leadership is
That's a
not,
lot.
I own it, therefore you, I own this practice, therefore you will follow me. Um, you can try that, but it's not a long term. It's not even a short term recipe for
I've seen
success.
it gone in such an opposite ways. I can use an example where when we talk about, or probably I should say, when we talk about leadership, persons often think, like you just said, I'm the boss.
Mm-hmm.
But it's what are those attributes and skills that you are sprinkling among your team.
Mm-hmm.
And as CEOs, I encourage persons to get your do leadership training.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that we don't know about ourselves. So it's, are you showing up on time? That's a
Mm-hmm.
part of your leadership attributes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
are you there on time? What message are you sending to your team and to your patients, that you
Mm-hmm.
value them or you don't value them?
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if you're holding yourself accountable. It's those things. If you think about, I was listening to a podcast with a Navy SEAL.
Mm-hmm.
I like listening to those podcasts and reading about them because I think they come with a level of discipline, maybe too extreme for me, but
But the essential traits, yes.
the essential traits that they have, if I can only have 1% of that, that will make
Mm-hmm.
a big difference. So I encourage persons to figure out what kind of leader are you in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Am I the leader who does, or am I the leader who says?
Mm-hmm.
We learned in school about autocratic leader and all that kind of stuff, but there are other things about leadership. What's my leadership style?
Mm-hmm.
Am I the person who is going to be asking a lot of questions,
Mm-hmm.
or am I the person who requires everyone to come with me? Because when you understand what your leadership style is and you can explain that to your team, then you gain buy-in. You know what? My boss, in corporate, my CEO was one who loved numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And because he loved numbers, that's how he led the company.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at numbers all the time. So there are just so many elements to your leadership style that I think once you are aware of that, that is
Yeah.
what drives your company. But you need to know what it is first, because wherever you drive that company, that's where it's going. I
Yeah.
once watched a show and got this code where it says, listen, the fish stinks from the head first. So if you're the head, anything that's happening to the body of your business, it's all coming from you.
That's neat. That's a neat way to think about it. I haven't heard that before. Yeah, I mean, you need to, what type of, this is a vague way, but I'll get more specific. What type of practice do you want? How do you want patients to be treated? How do you want staff to be treated? How do you want, the essential operational stuff to get done? How, what do you, and it's the leader who sets all that.
Yeah.
Once you've got that set, what's the culture? How are we going to treat people? What are we going to stand for? What are we going to flex on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And once you've got that set, there's 1,000 ways that an organization can succeed. And your leadership style is therefore X, some of the things you were saying, which means then you've got to find people and maybe massage processes and things to sort of find the right equilibrium between how you behave and what's going to
Yeah.
succeed. Because you could say, well, we want to be a $5 million practice and we want A, B, C, and D, and I'm going to be an autocrat. You wouldn't say it that way, but that's how I behave. Okay, well, then you need to find people and set the whole thing up to fit that, because that's the way you're naturally going to lead.
Correct.
You know, um,
And that's when I said, you need to know the type of leader you are, it comes right back to that, because in this conversation, we might not be able to fully change who we naturally are.
mhm,
But if you know who you are and you know how you show up, it's either you're going to find a way to, we have a term in a leadership program I did called style flex, where
mhm,
you're going to see how you can flex who you are in a particular situation. Or if you're at a stage where you're like, there's nothing that's going to change about me, or let me find persons who can work with people like this.
mhm,
And that is what you get to do. As you were sharing just now, I made a note of an experience I had working with someone, and they always have these grand ideas. This is what I want, or, this is what we want to be for, who we want to be for our clients, is though we want to show up. I want to be on time, but you're just never on time.
Mhm.
Like, what is it about how you were raised, or what is
Yeah.
it about how you value other people's time? Because it comes back to the values that you're setting for your practice.
Yeah.
If you are setting a practice that we care for our patients and we value our patients, showing up late is not showing that you value your patients.
Correct.
You
Correct.
know, communication is late or people are rushed. It just doesn't
Yeah. There's always an
permeate through the
exception, but
practice.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And listeners, we're not going to tackle leadership here. It's a massive, massive topic.
yeah.
The leaders in my sort of professional career that I've admired the most would say something, in one way or another, they'd say, I'm a student of leadership. Like you never stop learning about it. So
No.
I encourage you to, look at, find leaders you admire and try to figure out why. Read new stuff, read stuff about it, get to know yourself. There's a lot of good leadership assessments out there.
Yeah.
Probably take more than one. And once you start hearing overlapping themes, that's probably true. However you want to get at it, that about you, and
Yeah.
just, make your peace with who you are. And what
And
Michelle is saying is, look, there's some things that have to change. Flex
yeah,
them, be aware of them. It's hard to, there was a HR mantra back in the not so distant day. Uh, let's turn around let's work on your weaknesses. And then it finally flipped to, how about we just take your strengths and make them stronger? And we'll kind of like see if we can dampen the weaknesses a little. To me, that makes a lot. But in any event, the whole point of all this is to say is get to know yourself and
yeah.
your leadership characteristics, because I'll tell you what, your staff are watching and
And
learning,
they
and
know.
if they know and they're not wrong, and if they figure it out faster than you do, my friend,
They're
pretty
checked
tough.
out. They're either leaving physically or they're physically there, but they've checked out mentally.
Yeah. What are some other essential CEO attributes that you find yourself,
I think integrity is one.
mm,
And when you share just now about understanding the type of leader that you are, I think how integrity fits into that. If I am able to admit gaps that are within my leadership style, and
mhm,
I feel that I can share that with my team and make that a conversation piece, your team will love you for that.
mhm,
When you show up with as someone who you're showing up based on the word that you have given.
mhm.
If I don't, I want you to, and maybe it comes back to accountability as well. Like they all
They
intertwine.
do, which doesn't make them any easier, but it's true.
Right. I think that is so profound. And I remember I worked with someone at the time, and one of my leaders in corporate, and we had this conversation about just being open to have conversations where we see gaps in our leadership styles.
Mhm,
Michelle, where I don't show up this way, I am opening the floor for you to come and say something to me,
mhm,
and vice versa. And
mhm,
that helps because now you're looking at your leader as a human being and not this
mhm,
perfectly crafted person that you have created that
mhm,
they just can't live up to. But
mhm,
as the CEO, you also have to live in integrity. You
mhm,
can't feel upset when your team holds you accountable for something that you've already agreed on.
mhm,
Or we had this term in business where we would say, like for our meetings, we're out of integrity. If you're late for a meeting, you're out of integrity.
mhm,
And when you come into the meeting, you apologize. I apologize, I'm out of integrity. Or if you're supposed to submit a report, I'm out of integrity. We call it.
mhm.
So it's no longer a judgment, but it's what am I going to do different going forward to make
Mhm,
sure I can show up in integrity? Because especially if you're taking care of people's health,
mhm.
they're trusting you with that. They want to know that this is someone that I can have a conversation with, and I
Yeah.
feel that they're going to show up I don't want to, right is not the word, but they're going to show up in a way that is in my best interest then.
Show up ready. Maybe it's ready.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So integrity. What are some other essential? This is
So I think,
a trillion. Well, maybe not, but
yeah,
there's a lot. But some of the more essential ones, you think?
yeah, integrity. accountability comes to mind, and
Yeah.
accountability from a business and a patient care standpoint,
Hmm.
because I'll use this example. I was at a online AI conference last week, and they interviewed the previous CEO or the founder of OpenAI.
Mm.
And one of the things he was saying is that he has gotten a lot of questions from parents asking, what should my child study in school? And he knows the question is coming from an economic background. What should I do to make money in this
Yeah.
world of
Yeah.
AI? And he gave the story about his father being an oncologist and receiving this award. And a patient went up, and what she was talking about is the fact that his values aligned with hers. He
Hmm.
showed up as someone who cared and
Hmm.
someone that she could trust.
Hmm.
And so when I think about, we're talking about our leadership style, persons want to know that they can depend on you.
Hmm.
And you also want to continue to create this practice where you're truly caring for people. You have accountability for your patients and your team and for your practice.
Hmm.
What am I doing as a business owner to ensure that the promises I made, I'm keeping them? Who am I holding accountable? Am I
Yeah.
holding my accountant accountable? Am I holding my marketer, my business strategist, my team? And if you're doing it having acknowledged your leadership style and you're showing up in integrity, meaning even if I'm holding you accountable, I'm doing it with love and out of care,
Yeah.
it then balances out a bit. Leadership isn't always glitz and glam. The most successful companies, there are a lot of war rooms out there. You don't want to be behind those
Yeah.
war rooms at times. I saw someone make a post, and they showed this guy, the guy entering a boardroom
Hmm.
at his corporation for the first time, thinking that it's all, peaches and cream. And he's like, what the hell did I just enter into? So it's not that you're not being stern and it's not all smiles, but it's
Hmm.
done in a way where persons understand why we're here, what promises we've made, and you're holding them to account.
Yeah.
You're doing it in a loving way to your patient. You're supposed to be taking this medication and you're not. If you
Hmm.
don't, this is going to happen to you. But it's not just leaving them. I've gone to the doctors before, and it's just I don't feel care. I don't
Yeah.
feel care.
Yeah.
So I think they all work together,
Hmm.
but it's how
Yeah.
do you first figure out the style that you have, I think is important. And when you've identified the style that you have, then you're able to identify the gaps in your leadership or what is working for your leadership. And
Hmm.
when you're recruiting for your practice, you're recruiting, so you're creating this wholesome experience for your patients.
Yeah. Yeah. And listeners, practice owners, this is a very soft science. It's painful, but it's true. It's
Yeah.
social science we're talking about here, which is different than good clinical science. Good clinical science is, good data, cause effect, highly repeatable. You know, um, it's just not the same, but you got to do it anyway. Get to know yourself, get to know your own leadership style first. And a lot of these other things that Michelle's talking about will come out in good assessments. They'll
Yeah.
talk
Yeah,
about,
that's true.
yeah. Um,
You
what
know,
are
I
some good, are there any particular like leadership assessments you
so
like self-service ones?
oh, so I like the extended disc.
Extended disc.
I
Okay.
like extended disc. Oh my God, there's another one that I did that the name isn't coming to me now.
Okay.
I also did a leadership training that to date, I think it's the best leadership course I've done. It was very, very intense. It was offered
Hmm.
by Hardcore Leadership. And I went in because, as I shared earlier, I was doing vision boards, and
Hmm.
they had a 3-day vision workshop. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I offer vision board. Let me go and do this training to see how I can support persons better in realizing their vision. Carl, little did I know that it was very introspective.
Mm.
Was more about the vision for your own life. And then they had another layer, which was oh my God, I can't remember the name of what they called it, but it was really trying to figure out why haven't you achieved those visions.
Damn.
Listen,
Did they
Carl,
do that at the bar? Because I might want to drink.
it was 4 intense days of maybe like 13. It was long. It was during COVID and it was online. But they structured it in such a way that you couldn't even turn off your camera. They had people who would come in the room. But what it did in the end, so it was vision, and then we did, I can't remember the name of the second part of the program, but the
Mhm.
third part was about up-leveling your leadership, because
Mm.
once you're able to do that, you can conquer so many things. And it's not that you become a changed person, but I became aware of the different leadership styles that exist.
Mhm.
I understand how to style flex, and
Mhm.
I had emotional intelligence as one of the things, because I think when you understand your leadership style, you're able to style flex, you're emotionally intelligent.
Mhm.
So if a patient is sitting before you, even about consuming the information that you're giving them, when you're emotionally intelligent, you
Mhm.
understand that you can't talk to everybody the same way.
Mhm.
That's what's going to set you apart,
Mhm.
because they're going to realize that this doctor doesn't only give data. If somebody walks into your room and they're asking you specific question, you can easily see that this is an analytical person.
Mhm.
And so you shift how you give them information.
Yeah.
Somebody walks in and they're commenting on the colors, and oh, this is a more emotional person, so I have to lead with emotion.
Mhm.
So even when you understand not only your style but the style of others, it makes a difference. And that leadership program to date, I give it 10 out of 10. Every single
Okay.
10 out. I have my notes that I wrote down. I had them all copied, created a PDF, so I'm always reminded of it,
Good.
because I went in thinking, oh, I'm going to get something to give. It was all about me, but sometimes
Yeah.
we need to understand ourselves before we're able to serve others.
Got it.
So Gallup has
Yeah. Strength finders.
strength finders. Yes,
Yeah. Strength
that's
finders
a
is
good
good.
one.
Strength finders is good. And just before we sort of we'll get off the topic of leadership, but listeners, there's a lot of different assessments and they all have their different sort of way in. Like DISC, my maybe I'm wrong. My understanding of DISC is that it's good for like team leadership because you learn your style on the DISC and then you learn the styles of the other people on your team. And like if you're one style and they're a different one, here's how you bridge the gap. Strength finders is all about what are your I loved it because it said, here's what you're really good at.
Yeah,
And here's what, I love, go make those better, go find ways to show that where those are needed every day
yeah.
rather than not. I thought, boy, this is so
And that's what I love
sensical. Like it
about
just
it.
makes so much sense.
It's
Um,
it's it's strength finder for me. It's how do I show up more as the person I was born to be,
correct.
than
Yes.
trying to change. As you said
Yes.
with extended disc, it's you're not strong in this area. What can we do to work on this? Maybe that's just not me.
How about, well, here's one thing we can do. Uh, go to environments where that's not needed so often.
Yeah,
Right? Like revolutionary. It sounds obvious when it's said out loud, but
yeah.
revolutionary when it came out.
Yeah. So
When it
if you
came
think
out. So
about, we talk about Gallup, if you're the person who you're a huge communicator, you're operating your practice, see how you can use that strength to elevate what you're offering to your patients.
yeah,
That is your different. I think we sometimes forget that unique thing about us as human beings
yeah,
is what sets us apart from everybody
yeah.
else
Strength
and makes us
Finders,
unique.
it's so good. And
Yeah.
listener, if it's online, it takes a little while. It's a lot of questions. There's a
Yeah.
short book you can read, and
And they have a podcast as well.
okay, good. And you take that test and you read the results, you're like, God, it's like a biography. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
really, and then you got to accept. So, okay, so CEO, essential CEO attributes, kind of a fairly obvious question, but I think we'll get some good info out of it. The benefits of doing this work and the risks of not. What would you say? Like, I'm thinking of it as, you're trying to convince a new client or you've got some objections. I don't want to do this, or I don't think, how do you risks and benefits. How do you tackle that?
So I think when you are clear about the attributes that you bring to your practice,
Mhm,
and your team is also clear,
mhm,
then it it sort of elevates how you have conversation.
mhm,
So if you're trying to make a decision, for example, and you already know that you are the leader who probably takes time, or there's not going to be a lot of follow through, you want to bring somebody in on your team who can hold you accountable or who can fill that gap per se.
mhm,
You know, because when you don't do it, you're just showing up haphazardly, and it just creates more instability.
mhm,
I had my son's first pediatrician. One of the things I disliked about going to him, he was always late. and
Mm.
we're talking like 45 minutes late. And so
Jeez.
there's always a line. So you're trying to get there early. And I'm like, I don't want to be with this person. I don't want to go to this doctor
Mm-hmm.
because you don't value my time. And
Mm-hmm.
then your poor staff at the front has to always be apologizing. So that's
Mm-hmm.
the risk to it. If you know that you can't commit, you can't stand in integrity
Yeah.
with that time, then don't open your calendar for that time of the morning. Like
Yeah.
you remember that you are the CEO. You get to make these decisions. On the other hand, we found another pediatrician who, if she says 8 a.m. for an appointment, you better believe she's there for 8 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And she's offering service with care
Mm-hmm.
because she probably knows that's who she is.
Mm-hmm.
So when you know what it is, you can plug the gaps. If you don't, you're risking just offering a practice that you're just showing up haphazardly. And I want to say this as well, that sometimes persons don't see this as having an impact on your business, but where it
Mm.
does is how long you have to be working and how hard you have to be working. Are persons naturally being pulled to you, or do you always have to go out there and find people? When
Yeah.
they hear your name, what resonates with them?
Yeah.
Because remember, when it comes on to your healthcare, I have found in my experience that persons ask for references a lot. Or I noticed that you've been taking your son to one pediatrician for the past 10 years. And even though he's 14, the last time we went to Jamaica, he wanted to go to her. I'm like, dude, you're not a baby anymore. He's like, I
Yeah.
don't care. She's the person I want to go to. We're going to ask for referral. Michelle, which doctor do you go to? Oh, I've
Mm-hmm.
been going to this doctor from I'm 16. This
Yeah.
is the reason why. So you're either trying to always pull persons to you,
Yeah.
or persons are just going to come to you without effort.
Yeah.
And when you operate in a system, I don't know if it's different in the US, but when you operate in a system where you have private patient care a lot, then you depend on referrals. Government
It's
is
that's pretty
sending
much,
first.
yeah, it's yes.
It's a blend.
Yeah, there's insurance versus, but yes,
Yeah.
there's a number of ways, but yeah, your reputation in your community
Yeah.
is
And you run the
paramount.
risk of damaging that reputation when you don't
Yeah.
understand. And it's okay if you don't, because as I shared earlier, had I not gone to that training, I even learned self stuff about me. I was like, oh my God. I'm not a spontaneous person. I guess because I'm more data driven, the analytic side of me. And one
Yeah,
of the
we don't like surprises.
we don't like
We don't like
surprises.
surprises. Yep.
And
Can't
so when
stand
the
them.
guy was describing my personality, I started thinking about my husband. And I'm like, oh my God. Whenever he's coming to me with a new idea, he goes, I know you're going to need some time to think about it. And I'm like, oh my God, this must be so painful. So, every now and then I try to take my own advice and style flex and
Yeah.
surprise him when I say, he's like, oh, you're making a decision right now? I'm like, yeah, I am. Let's
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
But understanding who you are helps you to not just mobilize those on your team within your practice, but those in your lives.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you run the risk of not having that harmony, I would call it, when you don't get to understand it in that way.
I like the way you put it. I kind of morphed it in my head as if you're showing up to work every day and it just feels like a bit of a struggle. It feels harder than it ought to. Maybe the culprit is that your leadership style, your CEO style is different than how the practice is set up in a macro term.
Yeah,
And if it were set up to fit more, if you and your practice found a better balance of fit of how you operate and how it needs to operate, then those things would feel a bit more natural and therefore not as hard. And
yeah,
so is that actually the answer all the time? Don't know. But listener, if you're listening to this going and you say to yourself in any way, shape, or form, I have no idea what my leadership style is. I don't know. I
step
think I do,
one.
but and you're honest about yourself, then if there's one thing you take away from this episode is go start digging into that.
Yeah,
Just goes because the benefit is, and if you're feeling more natural at work, then other things you're going to start to see other benefits.
yeah.
You just will. Um,
Yeah.
you
And I
will.
like that. I like that card because that's one of the things I share with persons when it comes on to vision.
Mhm.
I'm like, if you constantly feel friction in your life with something
Mhm.
that you're doing, it means that something is off. You know,
Something might be leadership, might be something else,
Yeah.
But you're smart people, listeners. You start to do yourself the favor and everyone
Yeah.
around you, frankly, um, because you owe them your best, whether you think about it or not.
And you know the funniest part
Start
about it,
figuring it out.
if it is that you ask those around you, they know, they've been telling you,
Hmm.
but you've not been listening.
Hmm.
And a part of leadership, because I think leadership is probably the umbrella of it, or we use that word
Yeah.
loosely, but a part of leadership is being able to not think so much of yourself that you can't take feedback from others. And
Hmm.
persons have been telling you. So one of the things I learned, if I can use myself as an example, when I'm given a project to do, because I'm holding myself accountable, I am like heads down and I'm getting it done.
Hmm.
You want to help? I know you want to help. Thank you very much. But I'm the person accountable. I'm going to get this done. And one of the feedback I would get from the team is Michelle doesn't allow us to help. And I'm like, if you want to help, jump in and help. Find something to do. I'm
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
babysitting you, you
Hmm.
know? And it wasn't until I understood my leadership style that I got to realize that because of who I am naturally, I'm getting it done. I don't rise my head up to look around and bring persons along with me,
Hmm.
and so I had to work on that.
Yeah.
When I worked on that, I acknowledged it first. And I'm like, okay, when I get this to do, I need to train, I need to lean back. It made life so much easier. I had so
Hmm.
much free time because
Hmm.
now the persons who are, even though I was their direct leader, we're all in strategic management
Hmm.
together. They want to learn, they want to do,
Hmm.
and human beings want to be felt, heard, and they want to be seen. So
Hmm.
the minute you give them something else to do, they feel valued. Your
Hmm.
team is feeling the same way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just one example, but
Yeah.
when you're able to see it
Hmm.
and identify, listen, a part of leadership is being able to take criticism, being able to take feedback, you'd realize that it elevates your team to a whole nother
Yeah.
level.
Yeah. Is there anything you think we missed? We covered a lot, but
We've covered a, we've
we
covered
do.
a lot. There are just two other things that I think are
Okay.
important. One, decisiveness.
Hmm.
I think sometimes as leaders,
Decisive. Yeah.
you take long to make decisions. And remember that we're talking about you being a CEO, which is a business side of it, and also
Hmm.
taking care of patients. Decisiveness is one thing.
Hmm.
Your team is looking to you for guidance. And if you think about you're leading an army,
Hmm.
imagine somebody's coming at you in battle, you're at the front, make a decision. We
Yeah.
often think that it needs to be the right decision. Nobody knows what decision is the right decision. We're just
True.
making decisions.
Yeah.
I was saying to my husband yesterday that he has me watching NFL more than him now. And it's always amazing listening to the analysts on a weekly basis because if you win a game last week, oh, you're the best and he's doing so well. That
Hmm.
same person lose a game is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. Everybody's just trying to
Figure it
do
out.
what's
Yeah.
best. And on that decisiveness is taking risk. Sometimes you
Hmm.
just don't know if something is going to work out. And this can be for your team. You're deciding to give them a reward that nobody else is doing.
Hmm.
As the leader, you get to step forward and do those things for your team.
Hmm.
And I'm using team because your team is looking to you. They come to work, they're looking to you as their
Yeah.
makeup, if
Yeah.
I put it that way, because
Yeah.
really that's the position that you play in their lives. So those two I think are
Okay. Those are
important.
good additions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where can somebody get started? Like just on, the CEO attributes, very, very large topic. What's a simple place a listener can go to start to wrap their head around that?
Yeah, I think one, taking one of those assessments
Yeah.
to get to know what your leadership style is, that is very important. You will be amazed at how it can turn around your life.
Hmm.
Because it helps with recruitment, it helps with training, it helps with patient, it helps with so many things. So I think that's the first thing.
Okay.
Another thing that I believe you can do, because it's not an overnight fix.
True.
Or it's not a fix because not everything is bad, but everything won't happen all at once. Do it for your team as well.
Hmm.
Not leadership is not a title that you hold because you own the practice. All your team, they have a leadership style. And if you get to know for yourself and everybody else on your team,
Yeah.
you're in for
It's
gold.
it's a it's a really good point. I mean, there's a certain part of leadership that's selflessness. And so
Yes.
if you go into this saying, I'm going to make myself better only, well, I think you found your first thing to work on.
Yeah.
If you have a team, like if you have people who show up and
Yeah.
you rely on them to do a job and do it well,
Yeah.
there's maybe that's one of the first things to work on is
Yeah.
you're selfish. So,
Yeah.
or self-centered or whatever it is, you got to fix that
Yeah.
one.
So I think
Um,
I think if you start there, that's the one thing I would say to everyone, find out what your leadership style is and what the same thing for your team.
yeah,
Create a plan, action plan from this. And I think for most of these,
they're good. Like I remember Strength Finders is if this is your
they give
profile,
you,
here's some good next steps. If that's your
yes,
DISC has that as well. The good ones do.
yeah,
It's probably worth, I don't know, don't get overwhelmed by the number. Just start taking a couple, take a bunch of them and just look
yeah,
for themes and because they all have their different um, rationale and what they focus on. And that can be, you know, do a bunch of them, I guess. They're
yeah.
pretty
And
easy to
then
do.
when
They're
you
not,
do
they're
it,
not terribly, they're not expensive really.
no, and I think when you do it as well, you will get to know which one you'll prefer. So, like I've
Mhm,
shared, I've done like maybe three or four.
mhm.
This stands out for me because I did that while I was in corporate and it helped from an organizational level.
Yeah.
Gallup stands out because as an entrepreneur, when it
Yeah.
shares with me what my strength is, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hold on to my strength, and every time I show up, I'm showing up in my strength.
Correct.
So do, as Carl says, I agree, do them so you see which area of your life they fit into, and you take attributes,
Yeah.
develop an action plan for yourself and your team from there.
Yeah. I remember like the great thing was one of the great things with Strength Finders is it tells you pretty definitively, you're not good at that. So you can say, "Whew, I guess I'm not good at that. That's
And
okay. I mean, nobody's good at everything. And, you could just kind of let it go. I mean, it's not let
yeah.
it go to a point,
And you know
but,
what I love about Strength Finder as well? I remember I did a video about, changing how your recruitment or your hiring practices.
mhm.
When you're hiring persons for your practice, you're not just hiring a title or somebody for a desk. As you just shared, if it says to you you're not good at this thing, you're getting an operations manager, you're looking for someone who is good
Who's good at
here.
those things?
It's
Yes.
not just a title, it's
Yeah.
now someone who fits into your organizational culture. You are leading in this direction. I'm getting somebody to plug a gap that I don't
Yeah.
have. I'm just naturally not good at, I want to frustrate myself trying to
Yeah.
do this thing. So let me recruit for it. So I
Yeah.
think it's one of the things I also love about the Strength Finder.
Yeah. And for both of them, disc and strength finders and the good ones, one of the things I like about them is they each have a very strong research basis for why they test for the characteristics they test, what they can say about the outcome. I mean, and the good ones will tell you, like
Yeah.
they make their case. This is why we
Yeah.
do what we do. Here's the thousands upon thousands of data points that we have scrubbed and put together nicely and appropriately. It's not just sort of flash in the pan. Anyway, okay, we'll get off of these. So
Yeah.
thank you for coming on Practice Care, Michelle, yet again.
Thank you for having me.
Always good talks, always good talks. And so the contact info that you gave us, it's in the show notes for your episode. So listeners, if you want to learn more about Michelle or get a hold of her, that's a good way to do so. 2 quick points before we wrap up. First, subscribe to Practice Care if you haven't. Practice Care is one word. We're easy to find. If you like this episode, you're going to like all of them because they're all on just simple bite-sized business advice for private practice owners who got years and years of training on how to treat us. But sadly, in your school, the word business was not uttered. And that's a mistake and that's a crime, but it's the reality. So tune into Practice Care and get a lot of good, simple advice. And finally, if you're a practice care owner and you've got what you think is some good advice on or some good experience on the business side of private practice, and don't overthink what that is. Even simple stuff is something that someone else is struggling with. Or you're like Michelle or us and you serve private practice owners. Either way, come on to Practice Care and share your knowledge with the world. In the show notes of every episode is a link, couple of clicks. Tell us what's on your mind and we'll get you scheduled ASAP. Thanks very much. And until next time.